Alright guys, so this camera you're looking at right now is the Sony FX30, and if I'm being real with y'all, I might not even really need my Sony FX6 no more. And in this video, I'm going to explain why. So with that being said, let's get right into the video. Yo, if you like content like this, make sure you like and subscribe to your boy. Thank you guys so much for all the love and support, and let's get right into the video. Alright guys, so I originally bought the Sony FX30 as a B cam, a dedicated B cam, to help me with events, weddings, if I'm shooting documentaries or commercials, just being that secondary camera, a camera that I could easily throw in a gimbal, and then most importantly for YouTube creation. And the reason why I got the Sony FX30 wasn't because I felt like it was gonna be the most amazing camera, but I felt like it could help me in certain areas where I was lacking with my Sony FX6. And it has done that and beyond so much more. So I'm gonna just give you guys the background story. For any of you guys that have been following this channel for a while, you guys know that as of right now, today, if I had to pick the favorite camera, the best camera I've ever used by Sony, I would say it was the Sony a7 IV. I eventually got rid of that camera because I dealt with some overheating problems, but that camera was phenomenal. And after I got rid of that camera, I needed to fill a void in my camera bag. That void was just having a small portable camera that I can use for filmmaking, and I can bring around to different places and use as a dedicated B cam, and just to help supplement a lot of the footage that I got. So that came the Sony FX30, mainly because of the price point. I got this camera used, but it was like, I got it used, but it was pretty much like brand new. Like, I think it was only used like once. And I bought it for around like $1,000. I think it was like $1,200. I bought it for a very affordable price. And I have just been absolutely floored with the images that I've been able to get with this camera, and just how constantly, I mean, how much I've been using this camera. If I'm being real with you guys, as of lately, I haven't been shooting as many big corporate clients and stuff like that. I've been doing a lot of event coverage. I've been helping out production companies with doing highlight videos for big events. And with that, I don't need to show up with all of the equipment and the FX6 and everything. All I need is a camera and a gimbal. And all I need is that, and I could get creative shots of events and do my thing. So that's what I pretty much have been doing as of lately, as these last couple of weeks. When I say as of lately, I'm talking about the last month or two. And the Sony FX30 has been dominating because of that. Like, whenever I get hit up for a job, I usually gravitate towards picking up my Sony FX30 just because it makes more sense for that job. It doesn't make sense for me to break my back. I'm not saying the Sony FX6 is heavy, but just to rig it up and all that, put it on a gimbal, like, it just requires so much more work, where I've been very happy with the images I've been getting out of Sony FX30. So I've been bringing this camera along with me to so many different places. So what makes this camera so good? And I feel like if you are someone that is looking into getting into filmmaking, or you're looking to creating a podcast, a YouTube channel, anything like that, I feel like the Sony FX30 is your camera. If you're looking for a dedicated video camera and you are more so a beginner, or even if you are a professional and you want something at an affordable price, the Sony FX30 is the way to go. And the reasons why is because it has that 10-bit 422 Kodak. It has 4K, very clean images. It can shoot up to 120 frames per second. Now, when it does that, it does go into an extra crop factor mode, but that has been completely fine with me. You get what I'm saying? I don't usually shoot at 120 frames per second. Usually if I'm getting slow motion shots, I'm usually shooting that at 60 frames per second. So I don't have a problem shooting at 120 in some situations where I might have a crop factor. No, it's not as good as the Sony FX3 or the Sony FX6, but it's definitely good enough for most jobs. Also, the fact that it's lightweight, it's very portable, it's easy to just take around. And another major factor that I feel like a lot of people don't think about or discuss is the plus side of having a Super 35 sensor. So a lot of people, they get turned off by the Super 35 sensor. Nowadays, everybody wants full frame, which I completely understand. But at the same time, there's a lot of advantages when using a Super 35 sensor. So I have a Sony FX6 as my main camera, which is already a full frame sensor, but there are a lot of times where I need that extra reach. And that Super 35 sensor, it crops in about 1.5. So if all the lenses I use, my Sigma 28 to 45. It has a 1.5 crop when I'm using it on this camera, so I can get more reach out of it. The same out of my zoom camera. So if I'm shooting an event or something like that and I need to get something from a distance, I can pull out my Super 35 sensor for that and I can get more reach. So a lot of times if you're shooting wildlife or you're shooting events, you need to actually think about the benefits of having a Super 35 sensor. And then of course, the elephant in the room, the main reason why I feel like if you are new to this, or not even just new to this, like sometimes I question like, why don't I just use Super 35 cameras? Is just because the lenses, you can get comparable lenses. You can get lenses that are of the same exact quality, lenses that are really good for the fraction of the cost. And you can also get lenses with a low aperture to help you in low light situations. Like there's so many benefits to having a Super 35 sensor, but I feel like in this not just this generation, but right now everybody is so focused on full frame. But a lot of the cinema cameras are Super 35, like the RELX are Super 35. Even people that gravitate towards the red Komodo and all that, Super 35. The Canon C70 is an amazing camera. To this date is a camera that I always contemplate going back to, because the Canon C70 I never owned, but I used it with a production company, and it's an amazing camera. It has a lot of dynamic range. It's a Super 35 sensor camera. When I first started out using the Blackmagic cameras, the Blackmagic 4K, the Blackmagic 6K, they were Super 35 until as of lately with the Pixis and the 6K full frame, when they made them full frame cameras. But I feel like a lot of people are obsessed with full frame cameras, and yes, there's reasons behind that when we talk about just having a shallower depth of field and all of that, but there's ways around that, and there's so many benefits to having a Super 35 sensor. And I feel like Super 35 sensors are actually very, very cinematic, especially when you know how to use them, when you light your scenes the right way, when you have the right blocking, when you put the right things on camera. I feel like I'm not projecting this on you guys, because I've made this mistake a lot of times. Like when I think about what made me go buy a full frame camera, it wasn't because I was like, my first full frame camera, it wasn't because I was like, yo, like I really don't like Super 35. It just was because I was hearing that full frame was the way to go. Full frame is what made your shots look the most cinematic, right? So then I got full frame, and yes, I saw the difference with, you know, the depth of field and, you know, just being able to have more light hit your sensor. There are benefits to having full frame or to having a larger format, but don't sleep on Super 35. That's all I'm saying. Don't sleep on it. Also, the last benefit and the last thing I want to say about the Sony FX30 and why I feel like it's an amazing camera is that literally the color science is the same as the Sony FX3, the Sony FX6. It has amazing color science. It has you are able to shoot S-Cinetone. You are able to shoot S-Log, S-Log3. You are able to get that amazing color science. So if you have experience with color grading and all that, I'm telling you now, you can realistically, as long as you light your scenes properly and stuff like that, you can use the Sony FX30, and people are not going to know the difference. They're not going to think like, oh, you shot this on Sony's low-level cinema camera. They're not going to say stuff like that. Like, you're going to be able to get, honestly, I see some people's work on Sony FX30 that I feel like are very, very good here on YouTube and other places. Like, go look at people's work. Like, there's some people that are really, really good. And I look at the Sony FX30 footage and I'm like, dang, that looks like an Ari Alexa. You get what I'm saying? So like, don't just go after the most expensive camera, because a lot of times that can harm you. Because if you spend $3,000 on a Sony FX3 versus spending $1,500 on a Sony FX30 and then taking that other $1,500 that you have and buying audio, buying lights, buying a course to teach you, right? That's gonna better suit you than you going out and purchasing a Sony FX30, if that makes sense to you guys. So I want to talk about what led to all this. So if you guys look at the last video I posted, I was bored and I was using I realized I've been using my Sony FX30 a lot. And it's very hard to tell when you're using the camera, just looking at the LCD screen. I'm looking at the footage and I'm like, yo, like, this looks really close to my Sony FX6, but I'm thinking in my head, you know, maybe it's because this is just what I'm looking at right now. It looks good to me. I'm exposing it right and all of that. So maybe I'm overthinking it. So I decided to do a test. Now, everybody that follows this channel, you guys know I'm not the most technical. I'm not extremely technical. I consider myself a creative, right? I learned the tech stuff because I have to in order to create. That's the best way to put it. I consider myself a creative, but I decided to do a comparison test. The Sony FX30, which I got for around $1,200, so I'm gonna round that down to $1,000, versus my Sony FX6, which I pretty much got for like almost $6,000 when I first got it. I'm expecting there to be a drastic difference. I'll show you guys some of these shots for you guys to see. But if I'm being real, I knew which cameras which was which, but it wasn't because of the actual image quality and color science. Like, yes, there were differences. The Sony FX6 looked a little more organic, a little less clinical, a little more cinematic, but there's ways around that post-production wise. But they looked extremely close. And I showed my wife, I was like, hey babe, come here, look at this, let me know which one of these images you like best, or can you tell the difference? And she was completely confused. She was like, wait, which one is this one? Aren't they the same image? I'm like, no, like, look at it. And eventually I forgot which one she picked, but she didn't even know which image was which. So needless to say, that just had me thinking, like, these cameras, a lot of these cameras, right? If you buy, it doesn't just have to, I'm talking about the Sony FX30 right now, but honestly, you can do this with most cameras that was probably made after, I'm gonna just throw a dart. I think after like 2018, a lot of these cameras, if your camera has 422 10-bit, shoots 4K, has some type of log profile, at least 12 to 13 plus stops of dynamic range, you're good. Like, that's all we really need. That's all we really need. And the rest will just go out to how good you are, how well you light your scenes, how good you color grade your footage. Maybe you spend more because you want more functionality. Maybe you want internal NDs. Maybe you want the audio capabilities. Maybe you want some of these different features. But when it comes to just pure image quality, I'm telling you right now, you can give an expert the Sony FX30, and you can give a novice the Sony FX6. The expert with the Sony FX30, his footage or her footage is gonna look way better than whoever had the Sony FX6. So this is just to combat, what do they call it? The gas, right? Like, just gear acquisition, just going out and just buying gear and just like buying what's newer, because you see people that are really good making amazing things with certain cameras. But I need you guys to understand, those people that are making amazing things with the Sony FX3, their shots will probably still look amazing with the Sony FX30. So here's my what if theory, and I don't know for sure if I'm going to get rid of my Sony FX6, and even if I do get rid of it, I don't think I will be getting rid of my Sony FX6 just to get another Sony FX3. But hypothetically, if I was in a situation where I really needed to save money, I truly feel, I truly feel like I can sell my Sony FX6, buy another Sony FX30, invest in good lenses and lights, make sure everything is lit whenever I go places, and people probably would never tell the difference. It's just my theory. That's what I think. You guys let me know what you think about that. Maybe I am taking this a little overboard, but y'all let me know, because I genuinely feel like that. I genuinely feel like I can get away with using 2 Sony FX30s and be completely fine. And then if I have a higher end client that is impressed with you know, the big cameras and stuff like that, you can just rent. You can just rent the Sony FX6 or the Burano, or you can rent an Alexa. You can rent. You don't have to own these big end cameras. You can start off small and work your way up. So needless to say, just to sum up this video, if you are new, if you are looking for a dedicated video camera, and you are someone that is out there listening to, you're getting all of these notifications, Lumix just dropped this, Sony just dropped that, Canon's gonna be coming out with this, Nikon is dropping that, and you're looking at all these brand new cameras and you're contemplating which one should I get, I'm going to encourage you, whatever camera brand you're looking at, go look at their older cameras. Because more than likely there's gonna be another camera that camera manufacturer has out that is probably way better suited for you. If you're looking to buy the Sony FX3 but you don't have the money, just go buy the Sony FX30 or the A7S III or the A7 IV. Your image is gonna come out great. You get what I'm saying? So needless to say, and also one thing that I forgot to mention is that I've actually been using the Sony FX30 for some photography projects, just because I've been getting contacted to take photos, and this is the only dedicated photo camera that I have right now. My Sony FX6 obviously doesn't take photos, and I have a Fuji, but my Fuji X100, whatever, you guys know what I'm talking about. My Fuji film is more for my personal use. I don't really use that for like client work, but it actually takes amazing photos too. So needless to say, love y'all. Catch y'all in the next one. Let me know what y'all think down in the description. Let me know if maybe I'm taking this overboard, but I genuinely feel this way. I want to know what y'all think. I'm gonna catch y'all in the next one. I'm out.